So for any of you guys who may have missed it, a while back when we got the second trailer for Jedi Survivor, I actually went through and dissected the entire trailer and found every single enemy type that we know of. And today I'm actually going to be revisiting that and also including any of the new enemy types that we see in the most recent gameplay and compiling all of that into one single video. Now, obviously I've already touched on all of the other ones in that previous video. I'm essentially just going to fly through all of those ones that I've already covered because I've already talked about them. And if you guys want more like in-depth information on those enemy types, be sure to go and check out that video. But for this one, just to make sure I'm not dragging the video on, I'm literally just going to fly through those initial ones and then we'll get to all of the ones that we've seen in the most recent gameplay. So in that initial trailer, we saw early on the Magna Guard. We also saw these two Scout Troopers. Now the Scout Troopers were also in Jedi Fallen Order, obviously, but the Magna Guard is a new character, or enemy type, I should say, within Jedi Survivor. We then also saw the KX Security Droid, which once again was in Jedi Fallen Order. And then we also see in the background there are both a Flame Trooper and a regular Stormtrooper. Once again, both of those were in Fallen Order. We also saw the heavy Stormtrooper with the shield, which again was in Fallen Order. They've got those sort of heavy rotary type cannons that absolutely drain your blocking stamina, so they can be a little bit annoying, but for the most part they are pretty easy. And then obviously in the background there are just two more regular Stormtroopers there. Now, new to the franchise, we see a bunch of different droids. We see the B1 droids, or the battle droids. We see the B2 battle droids, or the super battle droids. And then we do also actually see BX Commando droids, which I'm sure you guys will remember from the Clone Wars. Obviously, there weren't any droids like this in Fallen Order, so all three of these are completely new to the Jedi franchise. And we also saw a little bit more gameplay from these enemies within the new gameplay as well. Now, we also see a Wampa in that initial trailer. It's definitely a little bit different than the Wampa that we see in Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, that is like an albino Wampa. It's obviously in the snow. This one is what I have been referring to thanks to Doug, one of my mods who shouted it out. He calls it the Bush Wampa, and that is definitely sticking in my headcanon. And then lastly, we also see the DT series Sentry Droid. I believe there are multiple variants of these guys, but they're all essentially the same. They just have different weapons and stuff, almost the same as how the Purge Troopers all had different weapons, but they're all Purge Troopers at the end of the day. We've seen the DT series Sentry Droid in Rebels. These things are definitely a formidable foe, so I think there's going to be a lot of fun little mini boss fights with these guys. Now that's it for all of the enemy types that we'd seen in that previous trailer. Keep in mind, I'm also keeping out like any of the boss battles, so there are a few more enemies that we see, but they're most likely going to be boss fights. I'm mostly here just talking about the actual like regular enemy types that we're going to come across multiple times throughout the game. Now moving on to the new gameplay that was shown by IGN a few weeks ago now. One of the first enemy types that we see are the new Bedlam Raiders. The one that we see here, and we see these guys multiple times throughout this little gameplay, they are most likely like a grunt, and there will no doubt be higher levels of enemies, almost the same way that there are Stormtroopers, but there's like regular Stormtroopers, then there are the Scout Troopers, then there's like the Officer Scout Troopers with the orange pauldrons. I have no doubt that the Bedlam Raiders will have like different tiers to how strong they are, and it looks like most of the ones we see in this gameplay are all just kind of like that grunt level enemy, where they're pretty easy to kill, but definitely a little bit more challenging than, for example, a B1 battle droid. Now, I wasn't going to include this one simply because I wasn't sure if this is going to be a boss fight or not, but we do see this massive like creature that Cal battles here. I did leave some of these out in the previous trailer, so it's kind of contradictory that I'm showing this one, but I'm not 100% sure if this will be a boss fight. It doesn't really look like a boss fight. There are a few of these type of creatures in terms of a similar size and stuff like that in Fallen Order that weren't technically a boss fight, so I thought I would throw this one in there anyway, and this little battle definitely looks like a lot of fun. We also then see these weird like grub looking creatures. I don't even know how you would describe it. What I do know is that they already look incredibly annoying. There are similar things to these in Fallen Order that were just so annoying when there's like multiple of these around and they all swarm you at once. They're not even hard to kill, but when there's like 5 of them, they get so annoying. So I think these ones are going to be pretty much the same, which to be fair is a good gameplay aspect. It's kind of good to have challenges like that where it's a bit of a struggle, even when they're not necessarily hard enemies. We then see some more creatures inside this cave here, and they are actually referred to as gorges. We see at the end when BD1 actually scans the enemies, they are called gorges. So at least we have a name for these ones, which is good because I'm not really sure how I would even describe them. They look like literally a cross between like a lizard and a dog. It's the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen, but they do look a little bit similar to what I was just saying, where they're not individually that hard, but when there's like 10 of them, they're definitely going to be a little bit of trouble. Now, this one I wasn't even going to count as an enemy because for me personally, I thought it was just a friendly, but Cal unnecessarily murks this chicken looking thing, so I guess it's an enemy. Cal is obviously not some sort of sadistic murderer, so the fact that he kills this chicken, I guess it's going to be an enemy type. I'm not really sure, so I thought I'd throw that one in there. But to me, it looked, I mean, it was just having a drink. It looked pretty damn innocent to me until Cal went and decided to chop its head off. Similar to the one that I just mentioned too, we don't see these actually attacking Cal, but I'm going to assume these will be enemies. We see these weird, like, tumbleweed looking creatures in the background as he's walking up to all of these other enemies, and to me, they just look like they'll be those type of enemies where they might not be aggressive and attack you, but if you go close to them, they will attack you. So I'm going to assume those will be an enemy type, some sort of creature, but that is just speculation because we don't actually see Cal even fighting them. Now, that's all that we saw in the gameplay section, but there were a few things revealed by IGN that aren't actually seen in the gameplay or either of the trailers. One, it is confirmed Droidekas will be one of the droids that are included in the game. Like I said, there are B1, B2, and BX Commando droids that we've already seen, but there are going to be droids as well, which is definitely very exciting, and they're going to be very, very fun to battle. And then we also see a shield trooper here, which is essentially just a scout trooper with like a riot shield. I'm curious to know what that riot shield is going to be made out of, because obviously you would think a lightsaber just cuts straight through it anyway, but maybe these are in the gameplay sections where Cal is mostly using a blaster or something like that, and they make it a bit more difficult to get those ranged kills. So I'm definitely interested to see how these guys go as well. And then lastly, in that same bit of information that IGN shared, we do actually see a few variations of the droids that I've already mentioned. So like I said, there are B1, B2, and BX Commando droids. There's also the Magna Guards and Droidekas, except each of those ones that I just mentioned, they will have different variations of them, for example. So there will be a regular B1 battle droid, there'll be a B1 battle droid that looks like it's got essentially a minigun or like a rotary cannon. We also see some in the gameplay that have like battle axes, so there'll be melee variations of the B1s as well. The same thing goes for the B2s. There's like regular B2s, but then there's one that's got what looks to also be some sort of like cannon on its arm. And then we do also see different variations of the Magna Guards. They don't look in terms of combat ability to be that different because they've got the same staff and everything, but they do just look a little bit different in terms of their aesthetic. So I thought I would throw all of those in there as well. Obviously, a B1 battle droid is just a B1 battle droid at the end of the day, but they will have different variations throughout the game too, which is definitely good for a bit of variety in the gameplay. But anyway, that is all of the enemy types that we know of so far in Jedi Survivor. Like I said, there are a few that I've left out in terms of like boss fights and stuff like that, but in saying that, if I've missed any, be sure to let me know down below as well. Knowing me, I've probably missed some of the most important ones, so definitely leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you guys are new to the channel, definitely subscribe and turn on those notifications. There is going to be plenty more Jedi Survivor content on the way in the lead up to launch. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the Force be with you always.